Hi there, I'm Heidi with Be Well TV, and you are watching Be Well TV Live. Today, I'm here at the Miami Beach Convention Center for Cater Source and the special event. We're here live on the trade show floor. So excited to be back. It's been quite the year and a half, and so many people that are here attending obviously are from the events industry. They're caterers, they're event planners, they're technical AV production companies, all kinds of support companies that support the industry. And today, right now, I'm here with my friend Rob Barber from Atomic. He's the Vice President of Research and Development, as well as the Vice President of Modular Systems. Atomic is one of the coolest companies that you've probably seen and didn't even know it. Rob, I want to hear a little bit about the company. What does Atomic do?
Boy, that's a loaded question. Well, we do a little bit of everything. We do custom fabrication of some of the largest sets on television and tours that I'm sure many of you have seen. All the way down to modular systems and small products that go together without tools. We started as a company 30 years ago with the Michael Jackson Bad Tour, and picked that up, as well as doing other tour work with Culture Club and The Who, and also all the MTV Unplugs. So we've had a long sort of history of designing rock and roll shows, and so that's been sort of the underpinning of where we started. Well, as time went on, our company grew and our interest grew into television and other avenues of live events and corporate gigs, and just working into those different lanes.
And to describe it a little bit deeper, I'm going to let the viewers at home know, when you're watching the Grammy Awards and you see that amazing scenic design, or when you're at a concert and you see all of the color, the drape, the textures, the design that you see on stage, that's so often, it almost seems like 90% of the time it's come from your warehouse.
Well, thank you. That's great to hear. I love hearing that. And yeah, we do find ourselves oftentimes watching TV and not realizing what show we're on sometimes, and Entertainment Tonight or whatever that is running the current events, you'll find our products on there. So it's always a little bit of a surprise to see that, and it always gives you a smile.
It's very impressive, and the thing that I really appreciate about you and working with you is that you're always so humble, that you do these amazing, impressive productions, and you're still a very relatable and friendly guy, and still pick up the phone for people like me.
Well, thanks.
I actually want to talk a little bit about where you're headquartered, because I think it's such an impressive, interesting story.
Sure.
Give us a little bit of background about Rock Lidditz.
Sure. We live on a campus in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, called Rock Lidditz, and the campus was started about 5 years ago. But before that, we were teching out all these shows for these concert tours, and they would go out for weeks and weeks, and while they were out on tour, they would be you were figuring out the last bits and pieces of that tour while the tour was happening. And we had this idea that if we started a campus and we actually teched the shows on campus, that we could bring the talent and the road crew on site to actually start teching the show before it goes out. It gave our employees an opportunity to stay at home with their families and not have to be out on the road as much. And so this 99-acre campus, we've got about 30 companies on campus currently. I oftentimes describe it as like a mall, and we happen to be one of the anchor stores on the mall. But we've got pyrotechnics, video editing, sound, lighting, everything is done there on the campus. We have a hotel on campus as well, so we can house and keep all of the road crews on site while we're teching their shows.
Yeah, and you get to see a lot of the celebrities come through because they rehearse there. That's not that you're like rubbing elbows or anything, but it's just an exciting story to tell. Correct. When you talk to the mom and dad and your sisters and cousins, it's kind of fun to tell those stories.
It has its moments, for sure. It's interesting though. One of the things that we have that's really kind of served us well is we've always held our clients' confidentiality paramount. So you might think that we're running around and chasing these stars and things like that and telling all our friends about it, but we really do kind of keep it close to the chest, and we operate on a lot of NDAs and things like that, as you're very well aware of. But holding our clients' confidentiality and holding the privacy of their tours close to heart is really valued, and they seek us out.
That's an important piece of making the decision to work with someone, because they don't want somebody that is going to take pictures from around the corner and then sell them to some magazine or online, whatever. Anyway, so Rob, the last year and a half has obviously been very interesting. Funny enough, like the last we saw each other was at this convention when it was in Las Vegas, March 12th, 13th. We shut down Las Vegas. This conference was one of the last ones before Vegas shut down and the whole world began to shut down. So you have gone through a lot of innovations and discoveries in the last year, and I don't like to say the P word, you don't either, we don't like to say pivot, but you've created something new. Yesterday I attended one of the sessions that Rob was speaking at, and I found it very interesting because it was really about the process of being creative and problem solving. And I think that that's so applicable in every industry and even personal lives. Your company is obviously very creative.
Thank you.
But you've really found a way to make a business out of it. And I think a lot of creative people don't necessarily know how to bring the creativity into the productivity side. So I want to talk about the session that you did yesterday. Absolutely. And start by telling us, what was the process that you went through last year when you determined that you had to reinvent?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe before I do that, just to maybe go rewind just a tad, put some things in perspective, because not everybody realizes how devastating the event industry was hit with the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we were doing about 4,000 shows a year, and it's quite a few shows, and pretty active team out there doing that many shows all over the world. And when the pandemic hit, I mean, it was like the emergency brake was pulled. Everything just came to a screeching halt, and we went from doing 4,000 shows to essentially doing none. Like from the time you mentioned the March 12th date of Vegas to that Saturday when I left Las Vegas, we had over 400 shows canceled just in a 2-day span. And so that was the beginning of the unraveling, to be honest with you. And again, I just wanted to pause there for a second to say that, because I don't think that everyone realizes how decimated the live event industry has been for the past year.
You're right. A lot of people don't realize. A lot of people have gone through a lot of things in the last year, and I know that I'm not aware of many things that they have gone through.
Right.
But you are right. A lot of people do not realize that the events industry and the supporters of the industry, we're not getting any of the stimulus money that restaurants are getting, even though we might work in the restaurants and rely on the restaurants. We're not getting any of the grants for the shuttered venues, even though supply the venues.
Right.
So our industry has been hurt and maybe not assisted quite as much as some others.
Absolutely, it's an accurate statement for sure. But you had mentioned earlier, tell you a little bit about how we, kind of came out of this pause, or what we did when we realized the emergency brake was pulled and things were stopping. We first of all we knew we had to stabilize our company, because we had just lost all of this business, and we spent time kind of organizing our troops and stabilizing the company so that it could later be here to pick up the pieces and continue on. But immediately following that, we went into sort of creative mode, if you will. Like how can we continue to be a creative company? How can we continue to understand that our strengths really lie around the creative process? And it became an urgent point for us, and one that we didn't want to lose sight of. So we very, very quickly dove into what were we going to do next, and how were we going to organize our team into a project where we could continue to create. And so as I said, we dove into that pretty quickly. We realized some of the things we didn't want to do and some of the things that we did want to do. And because of our, the muscles that we built in the live event industry, so to speak, we knew that we had some training in how to create systems that went together really quickly. That is part of the live event industry, is getting a product, getting your show in and getting your show out even faster. So we needed to kind of fix our minds and our sights on how we'd create a product, or how we'd create a thing that would kind of lean into some of those those parameters, if you will. So we quickly dialed in on the home decor industry, and again, some businesses were flourishing during the COVID pause.
Yep.
And obviously live events was not. Home remodeling and home construction and camping and all these other industries that were flourishing, we felt that we could come up with a product that really kind of leaned into the home decor product. And so that's one of the areas that we dove in and just started focusing our attention on. Very, very quickly we pulled together a team of 15 people to really focus in on how we'd go about this task. It was interesting because in the state of Pennsylvania, which is where we're headquartered, we were shut down for 2 months. We were not permitted in our office. So we're trying to come up with this product that we can't prototype it, we can't test cut it, we can't build it, we can't do anything with it. So we're literally in our basements with cardboard and paper and tape and glue, trying to figure out how we're gonna build this thing that we don't even really know what it is yet. But that project, though, it was an instant shot in the arm for us and our company to really get us moving and working toward a creative solution.
So something that you mentioned in the session yesterday, you talked about identifying the things, your strengths and your weaknesses of the team. And something that I thought was interesting was you mentioned that you are really good at working at a very fast pace. Because in the live events industry, you always have a deadline. The show happens on the day that the people have tickets to that show.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you are used to working on a 3-week time frame or a 6-week time frame, and you applied that to this situation because when you didn't have a deadline, when you don't have those parameters, in the creative world, oftentimes creatives just nothing ever comes to fruition because they're continuously creating ideas. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we are, we're the worst case example of attention deficit disorder as creatives, to be honest with you, because left alone, we can just spin and spin and spin. It is, it's a blessing and it's a curse, to be honest with you. And so we wanted to acknowledge, like you said, our strengths and our weaknesses. We are a creative company, and we do have the most amazing group of creative people that are masters at solving problems. But that show date, it drives us. It's in our DNA. It's been in our DNA for 30 years. And to suddenly not have a show date to have this project governed by, we knew that would be a potential snag. So we really set out to make a show date, so to speak, an aggressive date that we had put on the calendar that we'd say, this is when this product needs to go to show, so to speak. And that really helped fuel our team's focus and our creativity and kept it streamlined, if you will.
So your timeline was actually somewhat forced on you because you used the timeline of the PPP money.
We did.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So in that process, you go through kind of the brainstorming process, getting things on paper, and then what are the steps that you go through? Because I know you went from being creative to actually having a marketable product, and you had already talked with legal and accounting and all of the other departments. How do you get from point A to point B in that time frame?
Yeah, it's a great question. We really didn't know. We didn't have a roadmap, and we sort of, we oftentimes say that we're building the plane while we're flying it, and that was sort of the case here, to be honest with you. We had gathered up this team of 15, and the 15 people weren't all creatives per se. We had a person from legal, and we had a person from finance, and we had a person from operations, and we were just bringing in all those folks to kind of help ideate through the process. And so we all wore a bunch of different hats, but those folks that were brought into the project had certain expectations. So we outlined due dates for things to be done for each of them, whether it be legal or intellectual property being pursued. Those tasks all had due dates assigned to them as well, and milestones set. We had to find a way to just really celebrate the little wins that we could find, in this process, because it was an absolutely terrible time, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I mean, we knew the industry was devastated. We weren't sure if we'd have jobs, when all this was done. There's so much speculation was going on at the time. We didn't know if live events would be back in 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years, to be honest with you. So nothing was certain. So there was a little bit of that, around the team as well, of just the uncertainty of, am I going to have a job? Are the folks on our team going to continue to have jobs? And so I know I'm kind of peeling off of your question a little bit, but trying to keep the group focused on dates was a really important step when all this other noise was going on around the team.
Well, the thing that I think is great is this is applicable in any time. I know that you were under a lot of pressure and you had to respond to the current situation, and that's why you developed this new product line.
Yeah.
However, we always need to solve problems, and
Sure.
your creative process is a great way for anyone to go through the problem-solving process,
Yeah.
because a lot of people think that they're not creative, but everybody has a problem to solve.
Right.
So we all have a little bit of creativity inside of us.
We do. We absolutely do. And that's a really good point. I mentioned this in the session yesterday, that we had folks on our team that we wouldn't typically have on our team, to be honest with you. We just felt we needed to create this environment that could move really, really fast. And so we wanted opinions from people that wouldn't normally be in the typical product development process, to be honest with you. So I referenced them as outliers, pushbackers, and badassers yesterday in my session. But I really like that section of the presentation, to be honest with you, because those outliers are the folks that aren't typically in the meeting. They ask the stupid questions, so to speak, and we needed that more than ever. We needed those questions to be asked so that we could address them, put the fires out, scratch our heads and go, that's actually a really, really insightful question. So we had our outliers, we had our pushbackers, and the pushbackers are the people telling you constantly that you can't do it this way, you can't do it that way, and as much as we maybe don't like having those folks on our team sometimes because they're always pushing and pushing, we felt we needed them as well. They had equal part in this solution, and having somebody that's pushing you all the time is a good thing. And then we had our badassers, the people that we call our ambassadors. They fly the flag, and they believe in the project, and they're the full energy people all the time. But when you put a group like that together and really start holding them accountable for the thing that you're working on, it's kind of a magical moment, to be honest with you. So
the other thing that I really appreciate about your approach is the fact that you were looking for an evergreen solution rather than just reacting to the current situation. And you, I think, saw a lot of, not necessarily your competitors, but a lot of maybe similar businesses that were solving the same problem in very similar ways. And personally, I know when we were reinventing last year, we also did not want to do the same thing that other companies were doing, because that's a big time investment that maybe has a limited life.
Yeah.
So looking for something new that you're going to have that home art product, the home decor product, well beyond 2021. Right. That's a new product that will be in the world forever now.
Correct.
So that, I think, is really important.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, you bring up a good point. We've always kind of felt, sort of a design pet peeve, if you will, where a design pet peeve of mine is sort of when people are just checking a box that the design is done. It's sort of, I'm not finding the right words right now, but it's sort of taking the easy way out. And that really kind of digs at me, to be honest with you. I think as a designer, as a team of designers, and working toward a solution, we ought to be turning over every rock, and we ought to be looking under every rock to make sure that we're checking as many boxes as we can, and creating those points of difference. And those points of difference are huge things in moving the product forward. So leaning into green was certainly one of those things for us. And finding a product, it's funny, we stumbled onto this company that manufactures the raw material through the COVID pause as well. They were a brand new startup company making this green, tree-free product from upcycled rice hulls. And so this is.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It is. And I'm giving a pitch for another company, which is totally fine. But they make decking for outdoor decks and siding for homes, and all these raw material products are built from upcycled rice hulls, which is just amazing. It doesn't rot, it doesn't weather, it doesn't mold, any of those things. And to me, I'm mentioning it at such great length because, to your point of finding a way to lean into green and not just taking design for the sake of taking design, they went a step further. And those are the types of companies that we like to work with and partner with. Folks that aren't taking the easy way out, folks that are sort of looking to the next level and the next layer and saying, how can we do it better?
I love that. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a lot of business to do here on the show floor, but if somebody wants to learn more about your company, how do they find you?
Our website is atomicdesign.tv, and our new company that we started through the COVID pause is spacekit.co.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Rob. Enjoy the rest of your week here in Miami Beach. I know you're going to do a lot of great business and see a lot of great friends. It's so good to be live again and be back with friends and peers. Everybody at home, thank you so much for tuning in again. We look forward to seeing you again. Be well.